So my name's Austin Stam, and I'm the Digital Accessibility Instructional Specialist for the Office of Digital Accessibility. And today I'll be covering exploring assistive technologies, web accessibility, and the user experience. So the agenda for today is to provide just a quick kind of introduction. I thought I could pull a couple just questions to kind of pull from the WebAIM accessibility survey. I don't know if you guys have looked at that. And as I'm doing this, I'm just realizing, Joey, do you have that link? Could you put it in the chat of the presentation materials? Oh, I think I have it here.
I'm doing that right now.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, you'll have access to the slides and the videos and the different things that I'm sharing today. But I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the WebAIM accessibility survey, and then we'll go into some color contrast accessibility. We'll look at a little bit about headings, lists, images, form field, and focus order. The focus really for this presentation is to kind of explore how different assistive technologies interact with web content and digital content. And along with that, we'll at the end of this, we'll kind of have a little bit of a game that we can try out too. And I'll note that in that link that Joey shared, there is a resources section that has links as well to the different items that I'm going to be using today. So a little bit about myself. I was born with mild cerebral palsy, prosopagnosia, or face blindness, and ADHD. I went to public school through fourth grade, and my teachers struggled to kind of understand how to support my learning needs. For example, I had a hard time with taking notes from the board. So the teacher once said in my class that my handwriting was illegible, and she was like, "No one can leave until Austin finishes taking notes from the board." And so I kept everyone late for recess and got bullied. And so I was really fortunate in fifth grade to go to a school called Westmark, and they embraced adapting and modifying assignments to each student's strength. So I was provided like a keyboard for note taking and being able to, also learn how to use Final Cut Pro instead of making poster board projects. So what that kind of calls, what that story, what I'm trying to highlight there is sort of that you want to be thinking about accessibility and universal design from the onset of whatever you're working on, whether it be instructional materials or digital content. And so I have an example here from Microsoft showing the Microsoft Adaptive Controller, and they focused on the design phase of really making the packaging of their controller accessible and talking with people with disabilities and figuring out how they could actually make something that would be accessible to a wide audience. Because sometimes I think we've all experienced packaging being difficult to open. So the idea, though, is like when you're making your website from the onset, you want to be thinking about accessibility and inclusion and universal design. So I thought it'd be interesting just to kind of highlight some of the common web accessibility errors. Recently, like the WebAIM survey came out for the most recent, the 2024 survey came out. They kind of profile the top million web pages, like the homepage, and they look at how many accessibility errors are on that page using the Wave tool, which is an accessibility checker. So if you want to put in the chat, like how many errors do you think they found on the average homepage? You could put that in there, and we can see if anyone has a guess. So I'll just give it like 10 seconds.
We have a guess of 90.
90. Okay.
10.
10. Okay. So the answer is 56.8. So kind of in between 90 and 10, I guess, in that spread. And then the percentage of websites tested that had a WCAG failure was 95.9%. So most of them did have one failure, which just highlights how inaccessible the web is and how we should be really focusing on making our content accessible so that we can reach a really wide audience of people, because it wouldn't be acceptable to not include someone because of their race or gender from a space. But when it comes to web pages, sometimes there's content that people can't access and is inaccessible for people with disabilities, unfortunately. And so it becomes like a social justice kind of issue too, where we want to be fostering inclusion for all people. And some of the most common errors that have been found are like color contrast issues, missing alt text for images, missing form input labels, and empty links. And so, color contrast issues is the highest one. And so that's kind of what I'm going to go into now next. So for color contrast, you want to provide sufficient contrast between the foreground text and the background color. You want to avoid using pastel or light versions of colors. You want to use color in combination with unique symbols or other information. You don't want to just use color alone. And so I have some resources here from like the WebAIM color contrast checker that you can access. I like the color contrast analyzer from TPGI, and that's for Mac and PC. And it makes it really easy to check the color. So I'm going to do a little demo right now. So we'll have, here's like the color contrast kind of, page, a slide. And what I'm going to do is pull up the color contrast analyzer. 1 second. And when it comes up, we can go and start to analyze the contrast. So this first one is like black text on like a dark blue background. It says, is this easy to read? And if I go and I use the dropper to get this color, we'll see that the contrast ratio is 1.8 to 1, and that fails the minimum AA standard for color contrast for WCAG. And for regular text, we're looking for 4.5 to 1, and for large text, it's 3 to 1. So that kind of gives you an example there. And then if we go over and try this this one with the yellow text that says, is this easier to read? We get 19.6 to 1. So this is a much higher contrast ratio and should be easier to read. So that kind of gives an example there. I also put in like in the resources, like some lists to the Site Improve accessibility checker, which if you were to use it on like a page, besides, it's kind of an automated checker to check the web accessibility of a page, but it also has an Explorer option. So you can examine content and get an idea with like a filter, what it might look like for people with different, types of color blindness. And I also put a little article kind of profiling the different types of color blindness as well. So if I were to choose red, green and select apply, it would change the color of the web page to help me understand how that might be perceived. So that's kind of some resources there. And now I'm going to go back to this slide, and we'll go into looking at this class program example. And you'll notice that for this class program, they're not using color alone for most of these symbols. So like for the blue circle for the Studio 111, and there's a yellow diamond for the cycling studio. So you're getting a symbol and a color differentiating between these two items. But when you start looking at this with the Mat Studio and the Fitness Center, and I made it now a grayscale, you'll notice that they're both just X's. So they were using color alone, and if someone is colorblind accessing this, it wouldn't be able to access that very easily. So that's why it's important to be thinking about making your content accessible. Another example here, I have like a pie chart legend, and on the left is like the different quarters, and then on the right's the same legend, but when you apply it with grayscale again, there's no labels for what these different items correspond to, so it's much harder to read. So that's why attaching labels to the pie chart like I've done here can be really helpful. Because it makes it clear what everything is, and it's not just relying on color alone to do that. So I hope that was helpful. And now we'll go into talking a little bit about headings. When it comes to headings, a good tip is you want to keep them. They're providing like an organization navigational framework. So they allow someone who's using assistive technology to jump from one heading to the next when navigating a document's contents. And headings should be short and succinct and should follow a logical sequential order. So what I have here is like an example of kind of just a page with some headings for text. So like welcome to spring, daylight savings time, busy as it be. These are all kind of different headings that would be on that page that we'd be visually jumping to with text underneath for each one. But right now, I'm just showing that they could be programmed all as paragraph tags, in which case they're not actually programmatic headings, so they're not going to be picked up by the assistive technology. While if you go in and start to add in the H1s and the H2s, you can make these headings accessible and compatible with like screen reading software and other assistive technologies that may be accessing it. So that way, someone can kind of scan the document similar to how someone might visually scan it. And so I have some examples here. So I thought I would start by going in with an example kind of profiling screen reading software and how that kind of interacts with headings. So I'm just going to play this short video. So on my Mac, I have turned on VoiceOver, which is screen reading software that's in the accessibility settings. And I have went and gone to a web page called Accessible University. This is like a demo web page created by the University of Washington, and it kind of lets you navigate an inaccessible web page and an accessible web page and compare the differences. So what I'm going to do first is go on this web page and try and access the headings on the inaccessible version.
On item. Windows. Form. On item. Closing. Form.
So when I open up the rotor and try and find the headings menu, there is none that is available. And if I try and navigate to the next heading,
Heading not found.
there's no heading that's found on that page. Now, if I go over to the after version,
46.
I can then select, if I go in and go
Edit. Form
into
controls
the headings,
Headings menu. 2. Welcome. Heading level 2. Welcome. Accessible University. AU is a fictional university, and this is its fictional homepage.
so now it is able to let me access the different headings in the document. If I want to jump to the next heading, I can go over and use a keyboard shortcut to do that.
Heading level 2. Heading level 2. Can you spot the barriers? Heading level 2. AU enrollment trends.
So I'm able to navigate the different headings in this web page now. So that kind of provides an example of how you can use how screen reading software uses that programmatic data where you're specifying an H1 or an H2 and it's making it accessible for the user. So on my Mac, I have. And then I have, a lot of times people think about screen reading software as the main type of software being used, but another type of software that can benefit is people who are using voice control to kind of control their computer. People who might be using things like drag and dictate and other kind of speech to text software. So I'm going to play a little demo of this now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be using VoiceOver, but also voice control, which on a Mac allows you to control a computer with just your voice. There's similar software offered on PCs, like on Windows, and there's also separate software you can buy, like Drag and Dictate, which is the most popular version. But what I want to do here is just kind of demo again why headings are so important in building in these different accessibility features, because people can be using different assistive technology devices to access content. So I'm going to try and access the headings on the inaccessible version. VoiceOver, next heading.
Heading not found.
So it does not find another heading, but what I can do is I can use my voice to go to the after version of this web page, and then there will be headings that we can interact with. Show numbers. 46.
30% loaded. Show sidebar. You are currently on a button.
VoiceOver, stop interacting.
Banner. To exit this web area,
Hide
press
numbers.
Control, Option, Shift, up arrow.
So what I've done now is I'm in the after version of this web page, and I'm going to then go to the different headings. VoiceOver, go to the next heading. VoiceOver, next heading.
Heading level 1, Accessible University, image.
Scroll down. Next heading. VoiceOver, next heading.
Heading level 2, welcome. You are currently on
VoiceOver,
heading level
next
2.
heading.
Heading level 2. Bienvenido. You are currently on
VoiceOver,
heading
next
level
heading.
2. Heading level 2. Can you spot the barriers?
So that kind of highlights how you could be using your voice to control the computer as well, and why having programmatic headings again can be helpful. And then I think the last thing I just wanted to profile and show a quick demo of is just text-to-speech software, because I think sometimes people get confused. What's the difference between text-to-speech software and screen reading software? And screen reading software is providing that context by conveying where you are within the document and using those headings to navigate. Well, I'm going to use Speechify in this demo, which is text-to-speech software, and it's just going to basically be reading what the heading is. So I have a quick demo of that.
Welcome. Accessible University, AU, is a fictional university, and this is its fictional homepage. This page is designed to demonstrate a Can you spot the barriers?
That just kind of shows an example of how that's just reading the text that's on the page. It's not providing any context about the different items there. So what I'm going to do for a sec here is go to Microsoft Word and just demo how you can adjust headings in a Word document. And so the first thing I'm just going to note here is that there's some text that, like the sunny spring, that is throwing a contrast issue. So I could fix that here by just going over to the color option and just choosing a different color. And that will go away. But the accessibility checker, which you can get from Tools, Check Accessibility, does not display any information about headings in Microsoft Word. That's something that you need to be doing on your own throughout the document. And so one way to be tracking your headings is to go to the View option and choose Navigation Pane, and then you'll choose the second option, Document Map. And now I can start to go in and make a couple headings in this document. So I could do like the sunny spring. I could mark it as a heading level 1. So I'm just going to right click on the heading level 1 and choose update to match selection. This way it will just apply that heading level 1. And then I could do the same thing here for this heading level 2. But what I'm going to do, I just got to move the zoom thing to styles pane. And if I open up the styles pane, we'll notice there's up to like 9 different headings that you can use. So as you get into more subheadings, there are additional headings you can use for that. In this case, I'm just going to use that heading level 2. So what I can do is go in and choose the update to match selection. And then, oops, I think there we go. And I'll choose update match selection, and that will make it a heading level 2. And I could go through the rest of this document and do that as well. One nice thing about once you have a heading style set in Word is, like, if I were to change the font or whatever and mess with it, I could just go in and choose this heading 2, and it will apply all that pre-saved data when it comes to the color, the size, all that stuff to it. So then I could just keep on, selecting these and applying it. But the idea is that in your Word document as well, you can really easily add in headings. I'm going to jump back over one second to the slide. So I'm now going to just cover links a little bit. So you want to have a descriptive link that conveys, where that link is kind of going, and identifies what the resource is. Generally, that can be like 2 to 5 words that kind of highlights, okay, this is where that link leads. So you just kind of want to be short and concise with, with your link. A good thought is like, will the reader know where they are going by just this link alone? So I took from this Accessible University, demo page, an example of their links before and after. So on the top here, we have like a lot of click here's, right? And that doesn't convey where the link is going. Similarly, if you had the full URL, that could be very confusing because if it's read by screen reading software, it would be very jumbled and long. So you really want to have something short and concise that conveys where it's going, and that's better conveyed on this one. Although there's 2 infos I realize here, but that's kind of the idea behind it. So I'm just going to go into Microsoft Word for a sec, and we can kind of I'll just demo how that might work here. So if I go to this link, I can select it, and maybe DST in the USA, that looks like a good title for it instead of this long URL. So I could right click it and choose the hyperlink, edit hyperlink, and put that, oops, I think, I'm just gonna put that in for the edit. Although, well, I can do it this way too, DST in USA, and then hyperlink and just put the link in. And you could continue to do that for the other ones as well. Let me go back. And let me know if there's any questions. So when it comes to like images, another thing to be thinking about is providing alternative text for any images that are that's in your web content. So you want to be thinking about, is the image accurately conveying like what's the author's intent, ensuring that the spelling and grammar are concise. You want to be using like the fewest words possible to describe whatever the image is, like roughly around 125 characters or so, and making sure that it's equivalent as far as what the meaning is for that content. What's the key takeaway? So on the left here, I have like 88 image JPEG. The screen reading software conveys you're currently on an image, so you don't need to write image or picture when writing your alt text. And then on the right, I've added in alt text that's more descriptive. So it says the flowers in bloom at the Stanford Oval. You are currently on an image. And a thing to keep in mind here is that the intent of the author is really important to consider. So like this might be helpful in a context, looking at the flowers, but what happens if this article is all about the skyline and the mountains? Then it would change what's meaningful in the picture. So being aware of that as you're thinking about what alt text to include. I think in my Word document, I'm just going to jump back over here for a sec. I have some decorative images for sure. So in Word, you can go right click and then view alt text. And like here, it's just the AI is trying to come up with something. But we can just check mark as decorative. If it's decorative and not adding meaning to what's being conveyed, that's the easiest way to deal with that. Because you only really want to be highlighting meaningful images. In this case, this water clock could have some meaning. So I think I have some alt text for it, like a drawing of a Roman water clock. I even put a little bit more. Water slowly fills a large funnel that has the hours printed on the outside. So that, if it's something that is meaningful or has some connection to the content, then you want to be adding some alt text for that image. So that kind of highlights how you can do that in Microsoft Word. Again, when you find the image, you'll just do view alt text on the right click, and there is also in that accessibility pane, it will tell you if an image is missing a description and needs alt text. So when it comes to lists as well, you want to be thinking about different types of making sure that you have a programmatic list and not just putting in like special characters or symbols. because when people are using screen reading software, it actually identifies the number of items in that list when it is programmatically created. So that can be, is really useful. And so, the key thing is just not to be making the list manually, but actually ensuring that it's identified, using being listed content in the HTML or in the in Microsoft Word. So here I have an example. We're on the top, we're on number 1 of this list, and it's just reading what the item is versus at the start of the list, when it's programmatically defined, it actually says list 9 items. And so that information is then being conveyed to the user, so they know how many items to expect that they're going to be interacting with, which is useful. So basically, when you're looking to make a list, like if you're in Word or something like that, all you really need to be to do is not to use like manual creation, like going into the special symbols or whatever. Instead, you just want to go and either use the numbered or bulleted list option. So if I were to start turning these resources links into like a list, I could just use the bullets and be making it that way. And just making each link meaningful and having a descriptive hyperlink. But that's kind of the idea there.
We have a question, Austin. How do screen readers handle the BR tag?
I think I'm not 100% sure on that one. Joey, do you have a little bit of info on that?
I think it's just treated as a new line. I don't think it's causes any problems.
Yeah, I think one thing to think about is like the bold or italic. If you're using those, aren't conveyed. You could use strong or something like that for bolding, but the user would need to have like a more verbose setting on their software to be able to have that conveyed. But I don't think the break line has an impact. For form fields, I want to note that each form field should have a clear directions and like a clear label of like what that field is. So you want, like here it's password, so the label should be password. So if you're navigating, it should go to that option. And then as well, having the field be navigable with a keyboard, so it's going in a logical order. And along with that, if there's like an error or something like that, having that be clearly conveyed what that error is, because if you just say there's an error, that's not enough information for someone to know what they need to fix. You want to be really specific about what exactly needs to be changed, or if something's required, having that be conveyed. And so I kind of have an example again using that accessible university on what something an accessible form field is like for an interaction. So I have open VoiceOver, which is screen reading software, and I'm accessing the Accessible University demo page again. And I want to access these forms. And when I pull up the form controls rotor, you'll notice that none of these forms have an accessible label attached to them. So they don't convey the name or the email, which makes these forms very inaccessible for people using screen reading software. In addition to that, if I did submit the form, you'll notice that the error does not convey what the specific error is that I've done on this form. And so that, again, for people with all different disabilities, from learning disabilities to people using screen reading software, it's helpful to know what the error is. So if the fact that it doesn't convey it is another major accessibility barrier with this form. So now I have opened Google Forms, and when I go to the Forms Control menu in VoiceOver,
Form controls menu. Name required question.
you'll notice that now it would read the name, the email, and each of the questions. It's very clear what's being asked, and there is an accessible label for each field. In addition to that, if I go and
Stanford.edu.
just try and submit the form,
Heading level 3. Never submit. What's one important?
it immediately takes me to the first required field and wants me to fill it in,
Submit.
which is
Currently on a selectable
closer to, and
email.
it's conveying, this is a required question. So there,
This is a required question.
so it's making clear that the name needs to be added, which again highlights, using forms in an accessible way and conveying what that error is. So that's kind of example highlighting again why using accessible labels and conveying what the error is important. Going into the focus order a little bit too, it's important that interactive items are navigated in a logical order, and you want to have a clear focus indicator around the selected item. This makes it easier to navigate when using the keyboard or other assistive technologies. It's an easy item to check by using only the keyboard to navigate and selecting the tab key and just kind of tabbing through and checking, like, are we going logically from the top of the page to the bottom of the page? So what I'm going to, oh yeah, I wanted to highlight that this kind of format, for depending on the type of assistive technology being used, that format of using the tab key and going from one item to the next is common for some types of assistive technologies as well. Eye gaze you can look at the screen, it calculates and knows, but sometimes it will also, there'll be a setting where it will just start to go by the tab order to the different interactive items, and you can select by just staring at the item. So you need to have, it's helpful to have that order be set up. Another example is like a switch, which could be connected to, like, someone using a wheelchair with like a laptop connected, and when the button's selected, it's like a mouse input or a keyboard input. And so the software would be going through the tab order and having those different items navigate in a logical order is really helpful. One last item here is like a sip and puff, which basically is a device that uses air pressure to detect an input change. So you would like breathe into the tube, and that kind of can denote like that you're selecting something or sucking air in. And so those, again, that kind of connects to not just the keyboard, but all different types of assistive technologies can benefit from having a logical focus order. So I thought it'd be fun way to kind of maybe close out this session would be to use like the Hocus focus, which is, I'm going to put this in the chat in a second. It is just like a fun little game that kind of highlights the importance of using the focus order. It's more Halloween themed, so it's not, doesn't exactly fit with right now, but like the idea is that if you go into the different levels here, will kind of highlight the importance of having a logical focus order and how it can be difficult when you don't have that indicator or the items are jumbled. So I'll just start with this first one here. So if I select the start button, I can start. If I tab, I can start to go, and I get to the finish, and I select the enter, and I made it through that first level. And now they're saying a ghost stole the focus styles. So as I try and get to the finish, I don't know which button I'm on. I'm kind of guessing, but I was able to select it, and then they have different levels that kind of keep that going. So that could be, if you're looking to kind of teach people about focus order and its importance, this can kind of be a helpful way to kind of highlight some of those things in kind of a fun way. Yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I guess I will stop the share.
Nice presentation, Austin.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
One of the things I'm still struggling with is when you have an image that's in that's a complex image, like a infographic. It's got,
Yes.
come to the open house on and all this information. And you were talking about alt text, and I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more of a explanation of how you handle, because from what I understand is to put a long description about what's all the text that's in your infographic is not necessarily good, because when you're reading alt text, you can't stop and start in the middle of it.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, what approaches do you take when it comes to a fairly complex image description?
Yeah, well, I'll just note what you were saying about like putting in the alt text. I think that when it comes to images of text, just in general, you want to avoid trying to have images of text, instead writing out the characters. And one other thing that comes in with the alt text too is like if you're using text-to-speech software and you have the alt text for an image or something, as I ran into this, I do a lot of work with Storyline, and sometimes there would be images of text and there'd be alt text, but then I had someone testing it who was using text-to-speech software, and that's not conveyed. So like they were missing content that was being read. So it's helpful to just include images of, to not include images of text. To your question of like a more complex like infographic or images, I think sometimes if you can incorporate some type of description, particularly like below the image or something like that, if it's like a document, having that description that better goes into all the details of what that is can be a helpful way of trying to set that up, because you don't want to just have a run-on alt text, as you were saying, is that's not that becomes inaccessible. I'm trying to do and then yeah, I think that's definitely one area to consider. Do you have anything you want to add, Joey?
Just that, adding to what you've already said is and what Carol's pointed out, is that with that amount of text, you lose the structure, and that's one of the really important pieces. Not to mention that the reason why there's it's a WCAG violation if you do use images of text without it being, say, like a logo or something. It's that if someone is like zooming in the screen, the size of the page, that visibility goes down. So there's a lot of reasons to avoid that. One method is that if you do want to have something like that, is that you have the adjacent information in HTML, for instance, structured. You've got all the same information there, in which case it's duplicating what's in the image, and the image is just like it's more of a supplemental. It's not the main area to get that information from. And there's a question, Austin.
Oh.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Oh yeah, how do we handle inaccessible elements that are embedded from a third party? For example, we have subscribed to our email form that's added after page load via JavaScript supplied by our email vendor. I would say definitely maybe contacting the third party and starting a conversation there regarding accessibility and that type of issue would be a good first step to let them know, because they might not be aware of it. So if you bring it up, that can be a good conversation starter to hopefully fix that that issue if they're receptive.
Is there a good second step if their timeline doesn't match our timeline?
Well, I mean, I would say like you could bring up there's the laws and requirements around digital accessibility, and how depending what your contract is with the vendor and stuff, that might maybe there's it could be that that needs to be accessible. So that could then become an issue for them if they're not helping you meet that, and it's maybe in the contract or somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, thank you.
What about providing an alternative?
I think you could provide alternatives in certain situations, but I feel like in this example, it sounded like it was on all the email. So like, it just seemed like it was, if it's a blatant issue across so many different pages or things, it seems like it'd be better to just fix it directly. Do you have
Yeah.
any thoughts, Joey, on it?
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, those are the venues that you want it fixed at the source. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
we get the vendor to fix it, then it fixes it
yeah,
for all of their
echoing what Austin
clients.
said, because if you're the client, if it can be made part of like, no, we cannot use this because it's not accessible. And if there's at least maybe like a timeline, okay, we can wait for X amount of time or something. But yeah, that really starts to, it should start to affect like the relationship with the vendor also, and going forward with future vendors, making sure that that's something that's, let's say, addressed at the onset. You know, we need to, whatever it is that we're using from third parties does need to be accessible, and that is, as Austin mentioned, part of the contract.
Yeah, I think for the accommodation side, like if it was an individual student and they went to the local campus disability office, then maybe, there's some accommodation, but probably not with this example, but maybe more instructional content if there was like a platform or something that was inaccessible. But again, like the more you can focus on getting the actual platform that you're using to be accessible and choosing a vendor that cares about accessibility and is taking that as part of their their focus, that's kind of the best route to go. Because then on the other, if you accommodate, you'll get more and more students who need that type of accommodation. It can get difficult to then apply that broadly. I know that there's been, I think I want to say the Los Angeles Community College District had like an issue with that with one of the instructional like homework platforms, and they weren't able to remediate it in time, so it ended up becoming a lawsuit. So just being aware of that kind of thing. Well, thank you so much, for attending, and I hope it was helpful.